Welcome to episode 3 of The Lead Story. I'm WAFF 48 executive producer Mike Brown.
And I'm Margo Gray, news anchor here, and this podcast is about journalism and movies. Real simple.
That's right. We pick a different movie about journalism and the news business, and we break it down to see what they get right and what they get wrong. And we're excited today because for the first time ever, we have a guest. Ladies and gentlemen, there he is, Mr. Nick Lough, former WAFF 48 reporter turned attorney at law / sweater vest enthusiast. I'm disappointed you're not wearing the sweater vest today, Nick.
Hey, you know what? It's like 38 degrees outside.
As long as my headphones over that.
Exactly. Well, Nick, today's film, we're excited, first of all, to have you as our first guest, so welcome, Nick. Today's film is called Absence of Malice, and again, we want to say, if you want to watch these movies along with us, great. And speaking to the viewers now.
You should.
You should. If not, you don't need to, but there will be spoilers for these movies moving forward. So, Margo, Absence of Malice, what's it about? Who's in it?
1981, we have entered the realm of a word processor now.
Yeah.
You've finally taken me away from a typewriter.
Yeah.
Margo, we've entered the world where you and I have not been born yet before these movies have been produced, which is really bad. We were almost born, but not born.
I need to look
yet.
up the date it was released because I was born in 1981, so we'll see.
Okay, so Sally Field as Megan Carter, Miami newspaper reporter, Paul Newman as Michael Gallagher, a businessman wrongly accused in a person's disappearance, Melinda Dillon as Teresa Perrone, Michael's friend who reluctantly provides his alibi.
So before we get started, I want to lay out kind of my thesis for the episode, and my thesis is Meg Carter is a terrible journalist,
Yes,
and it
we
is
know that.
baffling that she works in a major city like Miami, and I'll be highlighting this throughout the episode.
Yeah, please
So,
do, because
yeah.
this movie, I really didn't like it.
Really?
It pissed me off, actually.
It should, because
It really pissed
it
me
really
off.
should.
You've been doing so well on the recommendations, and this one just fell off a cliff.
Yeah. We'll get into that later because it does kind of get weird in the middle. So basically, we're going to run through the plot real quick.
My goodness.
Okay. The president of a longshoremen's union in Miami is missing. Margo, this is a Miami movie. You're a Miami lady.
That's Fort Lauderdale,
Fort Lauderdale,
to be exact, but it shares the market. And so, yeah, it was nice. She's a little hot on the boat. And who knew that she was getting hot in other places?
Exactly.
So, it took a turn. It took a twist, and not a good way.
Yeah, right off the bat, we've got a nice printing press montage. I love a good printing press montage. I've never worked at a newspaper, but it made me wish that I hadn't missed the boat on
The good
that.
old days.
Is that how they make newspapers? Because I had that question. Like I'm watching that at the beginning, and I'm like, my God, is that they went through a lot. There's a lot of hands that have to touch that product before they start printing the press.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would think so, since that's pretty much the montage. I think that's probably stock footage, so it's
Who
what you
knows?
get everywhere. So the movie kicks off with Megan Carter. She's this reporter for the Miami paper, and what she ends up doing is doing beat checks. She's checking on all of her different sources. She goes and talks to the Department of Justice receptionist, who gives her a little juicy tip. Receptionist gets in a little bit of trouble for that, and that's something we press on our new reporters so much. Beat checks. Build those relationships so maybe someone does say something to you that they otherwise wouldn't.
You know this, Nick. It's all about relationships.
You and I have had this conversation, I think, privately many a times and we started as baby reporters and we moved our way up. We call it the news biz, but in the biz. And we've developed sources over the years, right? And even in my new world as an attorney, we still have those same sources. And I vividly remember making those phone calls to those beat checks, and so it resonated a lot with me because I remember making those checks, making those calls, getting tips, maybe not to this extent, but at the same in the same token, I mean, she gets this tip, and away we go, off and running, and I think if you can put yourself in a 22-year-old's, you know, head, versus a 32-year-old's frame of head, those are two very distinctive, ways to take this. And so I took this as this is somebody who's brand new that doesn't even know what they're doing. That is just, they're told of this tip and away they go.
Right. And like I said, the receptionist gets in a little bit of trouble for this. And that's kind of, what we talked about in all the President's Men episode, which is so many times now we'll talk to somebody and no comment, no comment. Or our favorite, that's an ongoing investigation. And I think the DOJ person says that's an ongoing investigation. We can't comment on an ongoing investigation. And Nick, as a reporter, you know the frustration of that. As an attorney, I assume you know the benefit of that and why they do that.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, look, I look at it from two different worlds, right? Like I've been in that reporter role where I've looked at somebody and I've said, I know this. I need you to confirm this. I've got all this backed up. I know behind the scenes this is what's going on, but I need you to tell me this on the record. And now in this role as an attorney, you know, I've been here for 8 years. I'm the gatekeeper of information in some ways. I'm not going to reveal that information. I'm not going to share that information. You may know it, but I can't tell you it. And so I had this internal struggle of the reporter in me versus the lawyer in me, and how am I to take this perspective of things? And I struggled with the very first part of this movie because of that.
Exactly. So I do wonder, in your new role, 8 years in, how many times have you looked at the TV now as an attorney to say, oh my gosh, that's going to blow up a case, watching TV now? I wonder how many times you've run into that.
I've watched you report on my cases, Margo, where I've been like, well, you only know one side of this, maybe because my client hasn't given a statement, maybe because law enforcement only knows one side of things, and they haven't heard from what my client's side of this is. We had that conversation internally here in the office a couple weeks ago. And so these things happen all the time. And the public may not be aware of that, but these internal struggles of, we want to tell you, but unfortunately in this role, we have to do our talking in the courtroom. It doesn't matter what we tell you, it matters what we tell a jury. And these things happen. And this is still, this movie is in 1981, it's 2025, almost 2026. These things still happen.
And that's one of the frustrations we have is we'll get calls, we'll get emails. You're not telling the whole story. We would love to tell your side of the story, please. I can't. Okay, then what do you want us to do? You know?
Well, it's such a tough spot. It's such a tough spot for everybody because I think now in today's world with TikTok, Twitter, Facebook, every other social media app that's out there, we want to know now. We want to know everything. We want all the information, and it's just not possible.
Sure. Moving forward in the plot, because we're still within like the first 5 minutes of of the film here, I want to get into my favorite segment on this show, Nick, which is called I Know That Guy. So just imagine the Leo DiCaprio pointing meme. We're talking about the Department of Justice prosecutor played by an actor named Bob Balaban. He's one of the ultimate I Know That guys. Like Bob Balaban probably means nothing to most people, but you Google him, like, oh, yeah, that guy. He's been in a ton of Wes Anderson movies, including my personal favorite, Moonrise Kingdom, all the good Christopher Guest movies, Close Encounters of the Third Kind. He's been on a bunch of episodes of Seinfeld. He's kind of like Wallace Shawn's long-lost brother in terms of the I Know That Guy Hall of Fame. So thank you for indulging me on my I Know That Guy sidebar. Moving forward with the plot, Meg Carter, she's doing her beat checks. She meets up with the federal prosecutor who gives her the no comment, then leaves the file on the desk.
Positioned perfectly.
And it's
And
kind
says,
of
"Stay a
a,
little
I'm
bit.
going to go
Stay a
off
little
on this
bit.
meeting.
Drink some coffee."
Yeah.
Would you have looked at that file?
Absolutely. I'm going to look at that file. Am I going to report on that file? No. But am I going to go look at that file? Yeah, because I think when I'm going to put on the reporter hat here. When you're a reporter, you want to know everything. You want to know every detail. You're a busybody. That's what you are. And you're going to look at that file. Now, in today's world, would I have reported on that? Absolutely not. I don't have the authorization to do that. But, am I going to look at that file? 100% I'm going to go look at that file. And I don't think any of us would have not looked at that file.
Right, 100% I would have looked at it as well. But the thing about it is that the questions that I kept asking myself throughout this entire movie is, how are you being used? We
Yeah.
know walking in, everyone has an agenda on both sides. And we even encountered this week. If you upset, once you've done your job, you've gotten both sides, maybe a third side, and someone comes back to you and they're like, you didn't do that the way I wanted you to. And the other side says the same thing. You didn't do that the way I wanted you to. I feel like then I've done my job because you're upsetting both sides. So that means in turn you were fair. But how are you being used was a question she did not ask herself the entire movie.
Right.
I think the ultimate line in the movie is when Paul Newman looks at her and asks her, how she's asking the question as a girl that's over at his apartment or her apartment, or as a reporter. And I think that that just hits it home. And she fails on so many different levels throughout all of this. There is so many times where she could take the ethical road, the high road, the right road, the road that I think a lot of us see as the road that you need to take and the road that we're taught in journalism school. And she just trashes it. She makes the wrong decision consistently.
And here's the thing: the critical scene for me in this movie is she takes the story into the paper's attorney, and he starts throwing red flags right away. Like the question is not whether the story is true; it's what do we do if the story is wrong? Are we protected? The law and journalism are intertwined in a lot of ways.
Well, and let me take it one step further. In law school, when you're learning about torts and you're learning about defamation and you're learning about those things, you learn about actual malice. And there's a super famous case that comes out of the city of Montgomery that applies to the rest of the whole country about actual malice. So I'm listening to that attorney in the movie and I'm listening to him talk about actual malice. And I'm like, man, I remember this from law school. I remember what we talk about public figures, actual malice, what that means, and just the application in the local level of a case in Montgomery is really what drove this thing wide open for the rest of the country.
And there's the question of is it legal, but at the same time, not only is it legal, is it ethical?
Right. And as a lawyer, you're under ethical obligations. As a journalist, you have your own internal policies and ethical obligations, some of which are the same, some of which may be very different, right? Every policy is going to be different within each journalism company. As a lawyer, those ethics rules are very, very clear. And so I'm so glad I had an opportunity to watch this movie because I had never even heard of this movie. I watched it and it was just it was eye-opening to me. And I had the same taste in my mouth that I think Margot had, which was I really like this movie because it made me think about things that I would never do. I would never even consider doing. And it's what I see and what I'm concerned with journalism now because I see people I'm gonna use the word manipulated, or at least they take things and they don't follow up with things now. And I'm not talking about local media, but maybe just things we see as social media influencers, where I'm wondering are you a pawn in the game, or are you actually reporting this? And it concerns me. It concerns me to my core to this day because what I went to law school and what I went to journalism school for and what I see being reported in the mass medias now, the social media worlds, and those are two totally different universes.
Yeah.
So going back to the judicial side of things and also where journalism parallels with it is that we are both in pursuit of the truth.
Yeah.
We are both trying to get at the truth here, but one thing that comes up with that absence of malice is the knowledge it was false or reckless and you disregarded the truth. That's
Yeah.
the nut here. That's that one piece, that nugget that we have to acknowledge in this movie that she just totally disregarded.
And there's in that same scene with the attorney says, "Well, you called Michael Gallagher, right? I'm not going to call a gangster." Your Honor, evidence number two, Meg Carter is a terrible journalist. She didn't even make the attempt to reach out to him. And then smash cut to Paul Newman looking like $1,000,000 walking in the newsroom saying, "I'm Michael Gallagher. Who the hell wrote this story?" And that brings me to my next question, which is, have you, Margot, or you, Nick, ever been confronted by someone you've done a story about in that way? And I can say I have. I do the Kitchen Cops segments here, and every now and then one of those businesses that's featured on Kitchen Cops will reach out and say, "Hey, the health department got this wrong, and I want you to change this, change that." And I say, we're publishing what the health department gave us. If you have additional information, I'd love to hear it. But in the meantime, your beef is with the health department, and if the health department issues a correction, then we'll take that step. If you've got pictures, video, evidence, whatever you want to show me.
How many times have you heard back?
It happens about once or twice a year, and most of the time, once you give that statement of, well, if you've got some evidence, I'd be happy to see it. You don't hear from them again. So it comes down to that. So have you guys been confronted by people you've done stories about?
Absolutely. I've been confronted. I've been confronted multiple times. I got called a Benedict Arnold by somebody over in the Shoals because they didn't like the perspective of the story, but the story was the truth. They didn't like what they said, but it was their words. I had somebody file a lawsuit against me because they said that I made a false statement, and that lawsuit ended up getting dismissed because it wasn't a false statement. Again, they just didn't like what they said. Very different from maybe this movie, but I never ran with a tip and didn't follow up with it. And I think that's the key here. If you get a tip, you have to take it at face value and you have to follow up on it and you have to do your own due diligence. You don't just take somebody's word at face value and say, hey, that's what's really that's what happened and away we go. And I've used that in my practice, and I've used that in to win cases in what I do now. If you just take somebody's story and just say, hey, this is what really happened. I mean, we all know there's two, three, four, five sides to every story and different perspectives on things. And just because someone said it happened one way doesn't mean that's really what happened or how it happened. It may not give it the proper context. And that is so key, especially in today's world. We talked about it earlier, where you want to know things now, where you have a 5 seconds to capture somebody's attention. And you want to know what happened, what really happened. I think that's why podcasts and why like true crime is so popular now. People want to know what happened and they know there's more to a story, and just giving it 5 or 10 seconds or a minute may not be worth it. It may not give the proper context.
Right.
Yeah.
So for me, I always go back to the one case that still makes me sick to my stomach to this day, because what is the one thing when we go around the pitch table and say, hey, I have this story and I'm chasing this, what is the one thing the news director will respond with? Is it going to get us sued? Like, that is the one guiding tenet that, we always have to focus on. Are you 100% correct on your facts? And so I knew I was heading in the right direction. I had multiple sources on this pyramid scheme that stole a whole bunch of money from folks.
And that's another thing. Like, if you see us use the word scam in a script or in a graphic, that has probably been through legal. We don't just throw that word around.
Right. That's a serious word to throw around these days. I know it slips off the tongue very easily, but there are lawyers behind the scenes vetting each and every word that comes out of our mouths. But getting back to that story, they knew we were on to them, and they called my news director and threatened to sue us for millions of dollars.
Mm-hmm.
Keep in mind, I am now a baby investigative reporter.
I remember this. I remember because we sat diagonal from each other in the newsroom at this. I just remember the stress that you had with this, and you knew you were right.
Exactly. But he was such a good con man that he made me think that my facts weren't straight.
Yeah.
And so you question yourself. And then on top of it, you couple it with the fact that you're first on it. When all the stations are covering it, you feel like, okay, I'm cloaked by, we're all onto something here. But when you're first on a story
It's
and
like we
there's
talked about
no
in
one
President's
else,
Ben,
you're going into uncharted territory.
Yeah.
You are freaking out. Like, do I have my stuff straight? And when they call to sue the station, you're like, you start to doubt yourself.
Yeah. Yeah, it's
And
not
you
a
get
comfortable
into
place to be.
journalism, I think, in some ways, because you want to be that white knight. You want to be that person that helps people. You want to be the person that is the mouthpiece of, hey, this person is scamming people. We need to shut this down. We need to be, and sometimes you are, that line. You're that person that is making that announcement. And it is so difficult when you're put in that situation in a newsroom. I mean, we've all been in it before, where it's not that argument of a race to be first, it's a race to be right. And when you line up all your facts, you get all your ducks in a row, and you know you're right, and the other side is still saying no, you're not right. It is so frustrating because you're ready to just pounce.
And that's another thing I want to put out, another piece of evidence, and my Meg Carter is terrible at this thing, is this movie could have easily been framed as, oh, Meg is under pressure. She's about to lose her job if she doesn't break the big story. The other paper is hot on their heels with this.
Nope.
No, she's got this on her own, and she just chooses to take all these shortcuts. So, yeah, Meg sucks, Your Honor.
At the end of the day, journalists are public servants. And I think what she needed to explore, looking inward, she was self-serving throughout this entire movie. And then, oh, by the way, you get romantically involved with one of your key, subjects of your piece.
Yeah. That's kind of where the movie takes a strange turn.
And but Margo, we've seen that. We have seen other people that we have not necessarily worked with at our station, but that we have worked with or been out in the field with that have been romantically involved with other people that we would have considered sources. And that is terrifying to me. That crosses so many lines that you never cross, that you do not do. And it hasn't happened. It's not just happening all the time, but it's happened enough where I question things because of that. You do not do that. There are lines that you cross, and especially in today's world where everything is being questioned, why make yourself a target? Why look worse in a situation when you can look better? Take the high road. Don't take the low road. That's lazy. That's not right.
She says a line. She says, I can hurt someone or hurt myself.
Yeah.
And I mean, hello. She got somebody killed.
Mm-hmm.
Hello.
Yeah, that was the next big plot point is the woman who has Michael's alibi finally tracks down Meg and says, "Can you just trust me? I know Mike. I know him. I know Mike. He was not involved in this. I can prove it." Well, okay. How Meg turns on her good journalist hat for 5 seconds. Say, "Okay, do you have any proof of what happened?" No, because it's an extremely personal story for this woman.
Right.
Because she is it's 1981. She's working in a Catholic school, and to say that she had an abortion as an alibi is not going to go well for her professionally or personally. And Meg badgers her.
That part right there, that whole scene is the only real scene in the movie that I feel like we all have had as journalists. That we all sit there and we question, we say, well, you're telling me these things, but where's the proof? And again, none of us, I don't think, sitting here would have ever run that story. But I think the questions that are asked during that whole scene are the same questions that we would have asked. Not taking somebody's word at face value, but where's the proof? What can you tell me? How can you confirm this? Those are key and crucial to journalism. Those are key and crucial to, I mean, defending a case, prosecuting a case, in so many different levels. Those are key and crucial. And that's the realest part of this movie. Not anything that happens after, to the extent of when she runs that story, but in that moment, asking those questions, man, that is if you want to be a journalist, that's what being a journalist is about.
And she brings it back to her editor, and her editor starts putting it in, and she goes, I don't know, do we have to? And she's like, the public has a right to know. Do they in this case? I'm not sure.
Are we making up follow-up phone calls? Are we sending some emails? Are we confirming some flight data?
Or the receipts that she asked for. She asked for receipts. Where were you all traveling that day? And she doesn't get it. The woman walks away. To me, the interview is over. It's not something to report. And that's it.
And clearly, the woman is not in a good mental state. She's struggling. And as a reporter, you've got to understand,
emotional.
If I put this out there, I'm going to hurt this woman. It's not unreasonable to think she might do what she did.
And maybe not to this extent, but I'm going to put this back on you guys. How many times are you in this situation where you are given information and you're asked to follow up, and maybe the fact you can't confirm those facts? What do?
You sit on it till you can. You keep asking questions, finding out who you can talk to that can confirm this stuff. And once you feel confident, then if it's in that situation, you get a manager involved as well.
Mm-hmm. You can sit on something for a long time and never get it.
Are there now? I'm gonna pull behind the curtain here because the public may not know. I mean, we all know we've sat here before. We've had these conversations before. Maybe not to this extent, but are you guys currently sitting on stories?
I am sitting on 2 right now, where I don't have someone to go in front of the camera, and I've been texting with her for a very long time. She was the one who took the fall in this, by the way, that she was pocketing money. That's the allegation, that she was pocketing money and lost her job because of it. But now she's ready to just blow everything up, but she doesn't want to put her face on it. And that is what I'm sitting on currently. And it has to do with audits. I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah, leave it at that. Got to move forward because we're going a little bit long here. As things go forward, the editor says the public has the right to know. I don't want, I actually do want to circle back and not talk about maybe a story we're sitting on, but a lot of times we hear things that are unconfirmed, especially on police scanners. Mm-hmm. And what we have right now is the situation we're facing is there are a lot of Facebook groups out there that either have someone sitting by a scanner and typing out everything they hear, or they may be AI programs for all I know. How many times do you hear things on the scanner that just aren't true? Because people are calling in tips where they don't understand what they're seeing, or the police there's
Every day,
confusion on the scene.
multiple times a day.
Yeah.
It sounds like World War III is happening down the road with multiple police, and then you find out they were just trying to close off a perimeter, but you get calls from, there are 15 cops here, you guys need to get down here, and then it's just
there was an incident at Bridge Street about a month ago where there were some shots fired, no one was hit, but on that police scanner you would have thought it was a mass shooting, and that's not disparaging the police or the first responders, that's just the fog of war.
Bravo 610, we hear shots fired, North Park connected belt. Early 313, people running eastbound.
10-4, multiple people running eastbound.
113 in front of BJ's, in front of Counter Grill. Alpha 26, the subject we have detained currently stated that the 1034 occurred around the area of Red Robin. I'm en route to...
From Cheesecake Factory to the AMC Theater has been walked through. We have no say for any victims at this time.
It goes back to the heart of what we're talking about, which is you have to follow up. You cannot trust the scanner to tell you the truth. You have to follow up on what the truth actually is. You have to follow up with your sources. You got to follow up with whoever the department is that's involved. Just because it comes across the scanner as X doesn't mean it's X. It could be Y. It could be Z. It could be nothing.
Yeah. So getting back to the plot, at this point, Mike decides he's going to get revenge on Meg by getting romantically involved with her and setting her up for another long con. It turns into a weird political thriller and less of a journalism movie.
Yeah, it took a turn there.
It took a weird turn there into like melodrama. But there is a moment where they're in the bar, and this is my film nerd corner segment. They're in the bar, and Paul Newman looks right at Sally Field and says, "You're hustling me," which I just want to call out. The Hustler, perhaps Paul Newman's greatest film. Film Nerd Corner this week is about Paul Newman. I went on a binge a couple years ago watching like 20 Paul Newman movies in about a month and a half. And there's some real clunkers in there, but man, there's some incredible stuff. So check out our WFF.com/the lead story to read all my Paul Newman recommendations. And we'll leave the Film Nerd Corner at that. Now
Wait,
you
before you get off of Paul Newman.
Yeah, I know you got something to say.
My husband is there saying like, okay, what's the movie for this week?
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm watching it, and he's like first few seconds of seeing Paul Newman, he's like, oh, it's the salad dressing guy. And I'm like, what?
Are you kidding me? Not even.
Didn't know.
Not even Doc from Cars, just
Nothing.
the salad dressing
Nothing.
guy. Wow.
I want to know. I want to know what
star.
Paul Newman. I want to know his workout routine because, like, I don't have that build, but damn, do I want it.
The guy just looks like $1 million every time he's on screen.
Crazy.
He's the most charismatic movie star in history.
Going to Sally Fields though. That's my girl. I love Sally, but she really upset me in this movie. It's not a good role for her.
She gives up her source.
It's just
There's that whole scene on the boat where she says she wants to get his side, then she secretly why are you secretly recording him when you already told him that I want to get your side?
Right.
Why,
Oh my God.
What is the purpose of that?
And I knew this going into this, we were all going to be talking and we've all known each other for years. But Margo, damn, we have had some conversations over the years about maybe, training some of these baby reporters as we grew up in the industry, teaching them the right thing and the wrong thing to do. And all I could think of was Margo is just stewing over there like, this is the wrong thing to do. You absolutely do not do this because you do such a good job of nurturing some of these reporters on the right thing and the wrong thing to do. I'm glad we weren't in the same room watching this.
Yeah.
Exactly. I mean, green reporters will come in any newsroom and you want to harness that fire that they have in their belly to just get the story. But did you ask this? Did you make sure they knew this was on record? Were you recording at that point? Did you tell them that you were recording?
Before we recorded our previous episode, Ace in the Hole, moments before we started, you were on the phone with Nick Ballinger doing this exact thing, kind of giving him that coaching and that lesson because he was upset about something he had done on a previous story, and you were kind of telling him, no, it's okay, here's what you do in the future.
Mistakes will happen, but never let it happen again.
Yeah, exactly. So at this point, Meg is back in the newsroom with her editor. Her editor says, "You might be a better editor than reporter,"
He
which I
gets
thought
it.
was funny, which might be true. Might be true. But I want to take a second here, just kind of read off a quick monologue that the editor says, because like when I heard this hit me right in my soul. So Meg asked the editor, like, "Have you ever considered taking another job?" He goes, "Yeah, absolutely." And she says, "Well, would you?" And he says, "Nope. Mondays are different than Tuesdays. You don't lie a lot. You get to nail the bad guy. I can print what's true. I cannot hurt people, and I don't know how to do both at the same time." And I was like, "Oh, that's the
That was
core of it right
powerful.
there,
That
isn't
was
it?"
powerful.
Yeah.
You guys struggle with that? Did you struggle with that a lot?
Yes,
Yeah.
it's a struggle every
Yeah.
day
I
because
mean-
what we print, we are printing or broadcasting some of the worst stories of people's lives.
Yeah.
And it could be just this one blip in their life that will last forever and
Yeah.
live forever on the internet.
I always tell my producers, the stories you're writing about these people you're writing the story of the worst day of that person's life every
right.
day.
Yeah.
And you
It
gotta
is a
you gotta
struggle.
treat that with respect and do your best to not screw it up. So that should really
That's
strike
why
a
I
chord with
left.
everybody.
I watched that line, and everything that is said there boils down to my 10-year career on TV. It really does. Mondays are different than Tuesdays. Tuesdays are different than Wednesday. I mean, it is such a rewarding position, but it is so hard sometimes, and it is so trying. And that's, I don't think, what people get to see is what the industry is like behind the scenes. And I think in some ways, maybe Sally Fields does to show what it is like behind the scenes. And while we're not meeting up our sources after for a romantic encounter, at the same time, we take these stories home with us. This is not a 9 to 5 type of job. It is a 24-hour a day, 7 day a week job, and you do not forget, and you do not you do not discard things. You take them with you forever.
Yeah, that was my next note on the notes here. The story is now over, and Meg goes all in on the relationship, and just further evidence, Meg sucks as a reporter. So it goes into this weird thing where, again, they set up Meg with another fake story, and she falls for it again. What are you doing, Meg? What are you doing? And I actually forgot my notebook. Margo, you got your notebook, but at this point, the movie just kind of is like, all right, that's enough. Let's wrap this up. And the big man comes in. You know who I'm talking about at this point, right, Nick? Oh, big Wilford Brimley coming in with that mustache, looking
Favorite
like
scene in the
Attorney
movie.
General, right?
Favorite scene.
Yeah.
Attorney General.
I don't think he's the attorney
I thought he
general.
was the Attorney General.
I think
Is
he's
he
like the
assistant?
supervisor.
He may be the assistant AG.
Yeah, he's a big guy in the DOJ, and he comes in. He's like, "I've had enough of this malarkey. We're gonna straighten this nonsense out right now." Brimley lays down the law. Meg doesn't reveal her final source, so she does the right thing
Protect
in the
one
end.
job.
Then after Wilford Brimley comes in and just destroys in one scene, he should have got an Oscar for that scene. Holy cow!
It was good.
Oh, he's so good. Now she's back in the newsroom, and the shoe's on the other foot, as this reporter's interviewing her about her relationship with Mike, and she's having to feel a little bit of what it's like to be on the other side of that. So I just thought that was pretty
She put
interesting.
herself.
You know what though, and this is the perspective that I have now. I mean, I've got to live in both worlds here, right? As a journalist and as a lawyer, and that scene struck me so much because it is very similar, maybe not in the same drama aspect of it, but it is very similar to some of the conversations that you have with a prosecutor as you're defending a case where they're laying out their case to you and they're telling you maybe why you're wrong, and you're sitting there and if it's a bad case, you're having to take it. And in maybe a different retrospect, if you have a great case, you're telling a prosecutor why they are wrong. Those are real conversations. And I thought, man, that's actually not far off from what we typically see, or maybe some of the conversations that are had. Now, in that context, with all the parties involved, absolutely not. But a one-on-one with a prosecutor, yeah, those conversations may happen, and you may double down on some of the things that you think are.
I think we just lost Nick. I think we ran out of time on Nick. I think our Zoom expired on Nick. We'll try to get him back here in just a minute. But we're at the
conversation,
end of the
though.
movie anyway.
Yeah.
We timed
Great
that just right.
conversation. I did
Yeah.
want him to explore a little bit more on reasonable and what is prudent. But hey, great conversation. And this movie is hated by me for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
Hated it. Painful.
Painful. Like I said, she's just the worst. Is she as bad as Chuck Tatum? No, but she's a different kind of
Right.
bad.
Yeah.
So apologies. I was had my eye on the clock. I was
I
like, oh,
know,
we're about
it's
to run
okay.
out of
It's
time
all
on
good.
Nick.
It's all
But that's okay. Hey, we got Nick back. Look at that. Hey, how about that? Sorry, Nick. We lost. We ran out of time there. We don't have Nick Law Firm money here, so we've got the medium account of Zoom, not the high level account. So we kind of hit our time period. But yeah, we're almost at the end of the movie anyway. And one quote that Meg said toward the end. My job isn't nothing. I just did it badly. Like, yeah, put that on a banner and hang it over your bedroom, Meg.
Get
Because
fired.
yeah,
Don't
you
ever
did.
work in the industry again.
No, how did you get this job in the
Wrap it
first
up.
place? So, as you might have noticed, this movie is intentionally not very kind to reporters, and it might not shock you to learn that Paul Newman considers this movie a direct attack on the New York Post, which printed some stories about him that he didn't like.
Oh.
And as a result of this movie, the Post retaliated by never naming Paul Newman in its paper again for several years. Like even
For
if
any
his,
roles he
even
had.
if his movie was like in the TV listings, they'd be
No
like,
way.
yeah, they would take Paul Newman's, and it was a whole big thing. So a big lawsuit and fight between Paul Newman and the otherwise esteemed New York Post. But yeah, entertaining stuff. Nick. Thank you so much for being with us. Do you have
Yes.
any closing thoughts before you
Awesome
go?
conversation. Thank you, Nick.
Guys, I hope we get to do this again because I feel like this is we get to see the real yous. You get to tell stories behind the scenes, and man, there's so many movies that go over law, go over journalism, bleed into both. And I'm excited that I got the chance to watch this movie because I'd never heard of it before, and I think it's worth watching, especially in today's world.
Yeah, Nick, I'll tell you what, when I was coming up with this idea for the show, the very first person I thought of for this movie, I got to get attorney Nick Law here. Better
Yeah.
call Law.
Yeah.
We got
Well, I
to do it.
appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah,
Yes.
I am disappointed, but sweater vest next time, though. Promise.
Yes.
All right, we'll see what happens.
All right, Nick Law,
All right.
everybody. Nick,
Good
thank
to
you.
see you.
Thank you so much for joining us. What a great fellow. We all love Nick.
Yes, we do.
Next week, TBD. We've got a couple of different options. We've got a couple of different guests in the pipeline. We still have Elizabeth Gentle floating around. Bernie Dolinsky from the Times Daily has agreed to do a show with us. We're excited about that. You've reached out to a couple of people we're keeping on the down low who will be very exciting if we're able to,
really exciting,
to confirm
especially if-
those. But
I mean, we can say that we're going to watch Anchorman. 'cause
Anchorman's coming.
We just need some levity after all of these horrible movies. But not all the President's Men was great, but like, ugh.
they're heavy.
They're just heavy.
Yeah.
But we have one coming that hopefully I can convince her to come on, and it's going to be great.
Fingers crossed. So in the meantime, just follow us on WAFF.com/The Lead Story. We're on Letterboxd as well, where you can learn about our favorite movies and read more. And one of these days, we'll come up with a way to end this show properly.